Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today, I've got with me Greg Russelman, and we're going to be talking about community. Greg believes that this is an ultimate secret weapon for organizations. Greg, where can people find you? Not
Link.
LA.
Tim, thanks a lot for having me here. LinkedIn. I subscribe to the DLA Ignite social selling kind of philosophy. So I live on LinkedIn, and that's the best place to engage, find me, and then have a conversation thereafter.
So, let's start off. What is a community? Because there's a lot of it being, there's lots of stuff being talked about, but what is it?
So the way I look at it, and that's the big thing, there are so many different ways to think about community, right? So like you could have a community for your organization and go like, great, I'm going to bring people into this community. I'm going to give them trainings, and that's basically how you're monetizing. It's like, all right, pay for access to this community. You see a lot of companies, a lot of solopreneurs kind of gone down that route and like building their community. It's like, all right, I'm going to take people off my newsletter and bring them into this, whether it's a school, whether it's Mighty Networks. There's so many different companies out there that are doing that. And that's kind of the business it is. The way I look at community is also very different because I'm looking at it from a company standpoint. And I'm not talking about the solopreneur, I'm talking about a larger scale company. But then most companies that treat community, they treat it as a way to have customer service. So it's like, great, let's bring our customers into a place that if they have issues, we're able to chat with them. And it's more of a forum in that regards. Or products going like, all right, I'm running community so that I can get an understanding of what product features, what people are running into, where the headaches are, and we're able to build it from their side. The way I like to look at community is literally, since I'm a revenue person, is a revenue driver. And ultimately, how do you use community as your ultimate brand advocacy? And so you and I both agree with, social selling. It's like, look, what's your currency? Your customers are your greatest assets. So if you can bring them into a place as a channel that you're able to connect with them, now you're able to humanize your company and use it as a revenue driver. And if you want, I can describe, but I'll pause here and we can go further.
Well, the thing that I wanted to ask you about was that when you talk about a revenue driver, you're not necessarily. Are you saying that what you're going to do is you're going to create a community and then sell to them?
No. So that's a good one. So there's another delineation. So a lot of people are like, great, let's use community as a funnel. And the funnel being, I'm just going to bring anyone that is interested in what my company does and what my product solves. And I'm going to bring them into this place. And then ultimately, I'm going to hopefully take that person and bring them into a funnel and they'll become a customer of mine. No, that's another way you can operate community. So many out there. I always advise companies like, look, don't do that as a funnel to try and drive sales. No, I look at it as these are existing users, your customers, your biggest advocates. So how do you take your biggest advocates and not only understand how to make them a better user of your product, therefore your retention is higher? Because let's be honest, most companies, a person's going to sign up for a product and they'll probably use about 10% of the utilization of that product because they signed up, they went through the process of onboarding, they went through the process of doing whatever they needed to do to use that product, and then they've moved on to whatever their core business is, whatever the case may be. So as the product is evolving to meet their continued business needs, they're not evolving with the product to make sure that that's there. So if you bring your customers into a place where you can educate them, so there's trainings, but the core piece, and this is what goes to my ethos, is life is about time and relationships. It's about bringing people together and learning because every one of your customers is using your product, but they're also having all their other business needs. So if you can bring your customers together, they're also able to solve their other business needs. They're able to understand, oh, Tim and Rob are talking about X, Y, and Z, and my product is now the catalyst, not only for them to come together, but how do we find that value in that partnership, that opportunity that these two people can help each other, can work together. And your company now becomes a place that people want to come to learn how to better their business. Your product is serving one issue, but your community as a customer focus is actually bringing all of these people together. And then from a revenue driver standpoint for the company, like I said, you're decreasing your churn because people are now understanding how to use the product better, and you're getting them to understand all the other ways that they could use the product so they can tell more people and go, wow, I'm not just learning about my CRM system. I am learning all these other business functions that are pertinent to me. Well, Tim, where did you learn about that? I'm part of this community because I'm a product and whatever the case may be. Like those are more common conversations. No one's coming up to you, Tim, and going, hey, Tim, who's your CRM system, right? That's just not an authentic kind of conversation. And that happens very little. And so for a brand, I want to be known, like, and trust, which you and I agree on. So it's like, how do you get known, like, and trust? You have a community where more people are able to talk about you and what you're able to bring to that. So that now makes your customers your advocates, your referral network. Now they are talking about you more. And then the third side from a revenue standpoint, so that's helping you from your sales standpoint. The third is you start having these conversations with people. Most people operate their community in the guise of, let's just have people talking in here. Once again, I love having this one-on-one conversations with people. It's time intensive, but that's where you start learning. There's plenty of tech tools out there to see, like, plug in, but that's where we're in. We're in a place right now where it's like, let's use technology, let's use AI, but we're in a pandemic of an epidemic of loneliness. So how do we have that one-on-one conversations? How do we have that connection? So now I can start seeing, huh, Tim's part of these other communities. I'm never going to learn that unless I start talking to Tim. And if I have 5 conversations where other people are in other communities, I can go, hey, Tim, can you introduce me to this community? Well, next thing you know, my company is now integrated with all these other places. So it's a growth lever in that regards. But Tim, what other tools are you using? Oh, you're using this tool along with my tool. Great. Tim, I should probably be talking to that other company and going, hey, we should do a co-marketing, co-sell together because our customers are both talking about us. They're both using us. We see the way that they're using it. There's an opportunity there. So when you're using community as a revenue driver, you're decreasing your churn, you're increasing your retention. Same thing, right? Increasing sales, increasing your advocacy, you're helping your actual audience grow your business so much more. And then you're finding those partnership places while at the same time you're giving that feel good motion for all your customers because they're not just looking at you as a product, they're looking at you as a core part of their overall business.
So, have you got any examples of this? And you can have a drink.
Fighting a cold, I apologize.
Okay, no, hey, no worries.
Yeah, so I did this specifically for a company, did this to Cast Magic. So ultimately brought everyone into a Slack community. And from there it was great. We were able to get insights directly to what the customer's issues were. So you have a channel for issues, right? You have an issue for product and feedback. Then I
Yeah.
set up all these other channels based on what the needs of the different customers were. But also every week I ran 3 different trainings. I ran group onboardings. Now that's the first touch point where you're able to bring customers in. If you're just doing a one-on-one onboarding, it's great. I can sit here with Tim, answer Tim's one-on-one questions. But Tim having the ability to listen to 4 other people who are probably having the same issues Tim is while you're using my one product, now I'm creating 5 people's connections. And what do you end up knowing? Tim ends up talking to Sally, who's on the call as well, going like, oh, I do this, you do this. We should find some way. So like you're finding more value in it. I'm like, you guys come into our community. This is what we do. We pair people. We want to match people. I run trainings. So now I'm educating you. And every conversation I have, I started able to go like, this is another way that someone's using this tool. So you're now helping other people get their ideas because that's really it, Tim. Most people have blinders. Like
Yeah.
I signed up for this product. This is my need, and I've never thought about other ways to use the product. But if you bring people in the community and you have those conversations, Tim's like, hold on, I know my business, and the way you're talking about this, I could easily do that, but in my own way. I'm like, great. You start getting those wheels turning. Once you start getting those wheels turning, my job is ultimately how do I make Tim money? Right? Like, at the end of the day, if I can make you money, that's going to make the company's money, and that's going to make everyone else more money. And that's really the key piece. And so from there, You started seeing in the community people saying, I'm part of this group, I'm part of this group. Reached out to those groups. We did marketing together. We did workshops together. And that ultimately led to a growth in ROI.
So I mean, if you invite people to a Slack group, you've got this ability for you. So I can go and talk to Greg without you knowing.
Oh my God, Tim, that was the greatest thing. Seeing how many people created podcast going like, oh, I need a co-host and this is what I'm doing. Had no clue what was going on behind until someone else said, like, yeah, I'm doing a podcast with so-and-so and I met him in the community. I'm like, that is the greatest thing. You're literally now a catalyst for people to find other business opportunities, to help their business. And they're seeing the success, not because of the product you're offering. At the end of the day, you got to provide a good product, but they're finding the community that you're offering as an additional value to that product. And that also helps you once again. They see the value you're offering that it's labor intensive. There's some SaaS that's behind it, but I ran it with 2 SaaS platforms that were free and was able to grow MRR exponentially while decreasing churn because of it and make all these happy customers that are still talking about creating content about your company because they love what you're doing.
And I think that also about this idea of sharing ideas, because I know that we use Cast Magic on the Digital Download, our podcast, and we took the summary from you. I mean, I don't know where Rob Durant, who's the producer of it, got this idea from, but it probably was from you or something. We took the summary and we put it in Chat GPT, and we said, come up with a sarcastic newsreader, which one of our team did for just did it for 3 months for and read it as read the news. Read the summary of the podcast as a news thing, but created by ChatGPT, and it was done sarcastically as a joke. And it's one of those things when I go on podcasts and I say, and people say, so what are you doing with AI? I said, well, it's kind of allowed us to do this. I said, we could have sat down and written that, but actually we would have never found the time to do it. So actually it enables us to create content that we never would have been created before. And everyone goes, wow, that's a really good idea. And it's one of those things that if I was in that group where people would share that, and you would get ideas back as well.
100%. And that was literally it, right? Because technically you could go and say, I'm going to join a AI chat group and everyone here is talking about AI, but it's like, but you're already part of an AI product where other people are using an AI tool and talking about AI. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to be part of the community of a product you're already using to learn, A, how do I use this product better? But also, what else could I be doing? What other opportunities that other people are trying to solve for their business needs? And that's literally what you see from a revenue driven customer community where it's not just a matter of customer service or product.
So I'm part of a sales community on WhatsApp. But the thing is that what happens is that everybody basically tries to outdo each other and be cleverer than each other. So I'm just looking at my phone, and there's 896 unread messages. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to read any of them. It just gets worse and worse and worse because every time I look at it, yesterday it was 700 and something. I thought, now it's 800. It'll be 1,000. It's like, well, I'm not. There's just no way I can keep up with that.
That's true. I mean, you
With
see that
Slack,
often.
I can pick and choose.
You see that as well. I mean, look, you see that the 99-1 rule is a key piece, and this is what was taught to me is 90% of the people are gonna look, and they're never gonna engage, they're never gonna talk, and you
Yeah.
come to realize, hold on, no one's responding to anything I'm posting here, but then when you have a conversation with them, like, I love your stuff. And you see this with social. I get thousands of views, but very little engagement. And then someone's like, I love your content. I'm like, well, why don't you engage with it? Right. So people just don't do that as a whole. So you also have to remember that, like, someone like yourself or even in Slack may not always spend their time in there. Like, great, I came in there for a moment, whatever. But that's why, as a product-led growth SaaS company, you're always getting new customers. So you're always replenishing some of the people that fall out, as opposed to other avenues where I need to keep the top of the funnel filled because I'm trying to convert these people into actual users of my product. But when they're customers of yours, you're like, great, you are customers. My job is ultimately to provide value, to create this engagement, to go, Tim, what else can I help you with from your business standpoint so that you find value not only with our product, but everything else? So if you're overwhelmed with 800 messages, then you may not go in there. But at the same time, you may like, you know what? There's 800 messages. It's probably time to jump in there and figure out what am I missing. Or I'll look at the analytics and go, hey, Tim, you haven't been here for 6 months. And I'll reach out directly and go like, we should chat. What's going on? Or, hey, Tim, here's a video. It's been 6 months. I'm seeing you're not using it. Like there's so many different things that you're able to do that enhance that customer experience, maybe brings them in. But ultimately the goal is how do I keep you as a customer so to decrease that churn and then help you to advocate for us so that we can increase sales. Those are the key ways to use the community.
What are the common challenges that you have? I mean, one of them I always come across around community is that people see it as a funnel.
And that's the way, if it's a customer only, right? What am I funneling? You are already a user of our product. So the funnel here is truly how do I help make sure that you stay a
You
customer of our
stay, yeah,
product,
yeah,
right? But that becomes the issue when it's a customer only and you're treating it as I want to keep you in retention. Someone that's usually running it is in customer service, customer support, right? Like they're here to answer your questions, make sure that you're happy and that you don't leave the product. I, with a revenue mindset, is like, no, I'm ultimately trying to think of how do I help you make more money? And how do I make sure that you find value not only in our product, which is product and what everyone's building, but educate you on those things. So, how do I help you tell more people? How do we advocate? How do I help you ultimately? Hey, Tim, you've got a community that looks to you for X, Y, and Z. Let's do a workshop together. Let's show them how you're using this tool and your unique use of ways of doing it. Now I'm elevating you. Now I've given you
yeah.
another platform that helps you based on the basis of being a customer of ours. Like the funnel in that regard is great. I'm helping you. You hopefully drive new users for us. Symbiotic, but that's what I love about partnerships. It's like we're both helping the end user, which is a customer who should be using this product in the first place. So that's a key way to think about it. Otherwise, yeah, it is a funnel. I look at it as a flywheel. Flywheel ultimately is like, hey, how do I keep you in here? How do I make you happy? How do I make you happy with the product? How do I help you make more money? You make more money, we'll make more money, and everyone just continues to go from there.
So what does leadership think about this? Because usually leadership want like instantaneous results, don't they? They'll be saying, "So what have you sold from the community this week?"
It's a great question. I had a conversation with a SaaS founder the other day, and he's like, I get this. And this is the problem I run into. People are like, I know we need to be doing this, but I'm so focused on spending $50,000 in ads to bring people into there. I'm like, all right, so you're churning. You're basically playing this churn wheel in that regards, right? Or they're like, oh, I've got a sales team, but most of the companies I'm working with like probably don't have a sales. Maybe they have one sales for an enterprise, but like that is ultimately the piece. Partnership people are always struggling in this regards because partner motion takes time, takes energy. You can grow through partnerships, but a lot of organizations are going like, where's the ROI? Well, I can prove the ROI. We can show you the decrease in churn. We can
Yeah,
show you the content that's coming out there. There's definitely ways to measure this. And ultimately, if like we did a marketing together, great. Did this drive new users? Did this drive new buzz? Whatever it is. So like there's so many ways to measure it. But if you're ultimately just looking at let's spend $50,000 an ad or let's spend more on a direct sales team, you're missing out on such a huge opportunity that creates this flywheel.
yeah. I think that. Yeah, I mean, I can see from a sales perspective that they want something instantaneous, but one of the big issues with SaaS companies, anyway, isn't it, is churn, and so you're constantly in this battle that you've got to replace the people that have churned. But if they don't churn, so there's actually there's a sales impact.
100%. And that's why I'm like, great. Use your customers, your biggest advocates. Stop letting them churn. Stop forcing everything into a funnel and start using what you've got. Your customers are your biggest proponents. Educate them, make them use the product better, help them ultimately grow their business more, not with just your product, but just by being able there to provide that service. And that's the key piece.
Greg, thank you so much for coming on today. Remind people where they can find you.
Greg Wasserman, you look at my LinkedIn, and that's the greatest way to find me. You can also do Greg at meetgregwasserman.com. Happy to answer any emails.
Greg, thank you so much for coming on. It's a fascinating subject, and I think it's, you've sold it to me. Thank you.